Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Salisbury 500. I'm John DePietro, and my guest today is Greg Post from Assumption College, class of 1989, and he is going to talk to us about the value and the power of networking. Greg, welcome to Salisbury 500.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
The first question is, what do you think? How do you think I came up with that name, Salisbury 500?
Let's see. Assumption College might be might still have that address at 500.
Right, exactly. And I should tell our audience that this show is not sponsored by Assumption. It's not sanctioned by Assumption. And in fact, Assumption probably doesn't even know about it. But let's let them know about it, and do me a favor at the same time. Down at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little red button. Just click on that button. And then when you click on the button, a little bell will appear. Then click on the bell. And basically what will happen is that every time we come out with a new edition of Salisbury 500, you'll be the first to find out ahead of the general public. So, Greg Post, 1989. Greg, tell us where you're from and how you got to Assumption, and then I'm going to ask you questions about networking.
Sure. I grew up in upstate New York. Came over to Assumption in 1985. Found it through a network, through a high school friend. And after graduation, kind of stayed put. Been living in Holden, Massachusetts, lovely town of Holden, since the early 90s.
Mm-hmm. So you traveled to Providence. Your company's in Providence.
So I've been traveling to Providence for the last 20 years, and the last 8 years I've been traveling, specifically working for Bowerman Associates, a construction general contractor based in Providence.
And that light on 146 in Sutton, even though they spent all that money, you still have to stop for it, huh?
Only in the afternoons. In the mornings it's easy. You blow right through. It's green. Every morning it's green.
Exactly.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah. So our topic today is really networking. And I know when I met you way back in probably 1990 or 91, you had called me, and I had an office at the time, and you said, you know what, instead of getting bottled water, we can have it delivered right to your office. And you worked for Polar Beverages at the time. Tell us how you used networking at your first job out of college.
Sure. Well, there was multiple jobs out of college, but Polar was probably the third. But I'll start there because the other two were all food service related and kind of unrelated to networking.
In other words, you were schlepping burgers at McDonald's.
Not quite. Managing a restaurant, but that wasn't the greatest time out of college. Little bit of a downturn. But anyways, I spent I went back to Assumption to network my way to a referral to Polar Beverages. So that was kind of how I got back into it. I got laid off from a company I was doing sales on the road for, and once that happened, I called Melanie Damaris at Assumption and said, Melanie, I want to come up and start networking, and I need to find a job. And that was how it started, with the referral directly to Polar Beverages.
Mm-hmm.
And then, go ahead.
And go ahead. So continue with that.
So basically that was kind of the impetus of my networking referral base, and was lucky enough when I joined Polar that there was no representation other than the Crowley family, no representation at the Chamber of Commerce, the Worcester Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
So I raised my hand to get involved with the Chamber of Commerce in Worcester, and an ambassador program and the referral networking program. So we spent 3 years building a great networking program for the chamber, and helped by the nature of that, helping ourselves, get business and such.
Mm-hmm. And I understand that during that time that you were doing that groundwork, you basically almost tripled the business in that particular area of the company that you had responsibility for, right?
Correct. It was myself and two other gentlemen, young guys, out there knocking on doors and getting Polar's name out in the Worcester County area. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, we did it was a lot of hard work, a lot of cold calling, but
yeah. So fast forward, 30 years have gone by, like that, right? A snap of the finger. But you go back to the college frequently and talk with the current students about the value of networking. how do they respond to that? Do they think that, you know, you have to have a 4.0 and be related to an owner of a company, or do they really listen to you?
You know, it's a great question, John. I think that having a couple of 4 kids of my own that have been going through this, and then obviously speaking to the students at Assumption, I come quickly to realize that we're not doing these kids any favors through high school and into college. The students aren't being taught how to network appropriately. So I reached out to Assumption, and they actually, I was on campus and talked to a couple of students, and they said, "Geez, would you like to talk to a couple of the business classes about networking?" And I said, "Absolutely." I said,
So
because
the
these
kids
poor
asked
kids,
you to talk.
well, I was speaking to a professor and one of the administrators at Assumption, and and doing some one-on-ones after one of the networking events.
Oh,
I met
okay.
a couple of students on campus. That's how it started. I met a couple of students on campus at the ambassador program. Assumption has an ambassador program that they just started.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and met a couple, you know, was there at their inaugural event in the fall, and met a bunch of students, did set up some one-on-ones to talk to them about their resume and about networking, about everything, expectations after college. And that's how it started. Then the administration approached me and said, "Would you like to talk to a couple of the business classes?" So in January, I went up and spent better part of 3 or 4 hours at 2 different classes, speaking specifically about, you know, lessons learned and
Sure.
the things that they should be really looking out for coming out of college as a junior or senior, or even as a freshman and sophomore, building your LinkedIn account and building that network early on, and not waiting.
So how about, Greg, you know, you talk to college students about that, but my guess is that networking doesn't end at graduation, but really it starts. So what would you talk to somebody who's 10 years out or 15 years out, or like right now in this pandemic that we're dealing with right now, that somebody may be thinking of a career change, or they're thinking of it because they have no choice. The company is, you know, downsized. Does networking still have validity in the current world that we're in right now?
Oh, absolutely. Networking is everything, John. You know that is better than anybody. But I would represent that if you're not picking up the phone and calling your last boss or your best friend's father or your uncle or someone that's in business now, not looking for a job, but looking to network and dig deeper into their network and looking for those soft, easy referrals, they're there. Unfortunately, as I talk to the students, they don't know how to do it properly. So if they don't know how to do it properly at 20, 21 years old, at 31,
Yep.
and someone that's coming out of college 10 years ago, my guess is they probably a lot of people don't know how to network appropriately,
Which is
or
really a
are
shame.
uncomfortable.
And I think that many employers are more comfortable hiring someone that they know that knows them, that can
Right.
tell them the real scoop on this person, as opposed to the restrictions about what can be talked about in the HR environment, right?
Yep. Exactly. You know, when I said to the students, I said, do yourselves a favor, and I should all adults spend $150 a year on the LinkedIn executive account. And I told the students for Christmas or for Easter or for whatever, for your birthday, ask your parents, instead of a gift, ask them to give you a 1-year subscription to executive account. And I said, but you got to build your network, and you got to use that executive account every single day.
Yep.
You know, because it's a very important, powerful tool if used appropriately.
Great. Hey, Greg, we want to thank you so much. I know you've got a busy schedule working. You know what? When you're up at the top of the pyramid in your company, even though you're not commuting to work, the work is still there. I'm sure that you've got a busy day planned, and want to thank you for spending time with us. And at some time, would you come back and talk with us on future networking opportunities?
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure.
Great.
Thank you, John.
Folks, our guest has been Greg Post, an Assumption College alum from the class of 1989. He's an expert on networking. And stay tuned to this YouTube channel, because we've got several people that are going to help us with the issues of the day. This is John DePietro. Have a great day, everybody.